Hello, hello. You're listening to Midnight Movie Gang. It is currently 1:16 p.m. Night Movie Gang, and I'm LC Hines. I'm here with my buddy Phil. Introduce yourself, Phil.
Howdy guys, my name's Phil. I go by Philly mainly on the internet, spelled incorrectly and phonetically wrong. I didn't know about that for a while. But yeah, just a guy who has a degree in film production who doesn't watch many movies and gets roasted quite a bit by LC.
I don't roast you
Not
about
a
it.
roast, but
I just try to educate you. That's all.
it helps. And then I have a list still on my phone that's pure like, all right, LC movie recommendations I need to go through.
I have a buddy. I can't believe I've never told you about this friend. So I've told you that I worked in a movie theater in high school, right?
Yes.
Yeah. One of my buddies I worked with at the theater, Ed Dixon. Hi, Ed, out there if you're listening. I've sent you the podcast. You should be listening. But my buddy Ed, who I worked at that theater with, he lives in LA right now, and he's trying to work in the. I should have fucking given.
I'm about to say
After the
that's
show-
the connection right there.
I can't believe I haven't thought about Ed no, I've thought about you, Ed, but I haven't thought to tell you about Ed and give you Ed after the show. I'm giving you Ed's info. But anyway,
Perfect.
Ed. He's trying to work in the film industry, he's doing whatever kind of
Video gigs, stuff like that.
you know, the gigs he can. And he knows, and he's friends, he knows a couple of people, higher up people in the film industry, just people he talks to or sees around regularly. And he called me a few months ago, and we were just catching up, and he was telling me, LC, I know all these people who work in the movie industry and all these people, but none of them know as much about movies as you. And I was like, oh. That makes me feel good.
Yeah, it's like they won't watch them. I don't get it. Everyone I've talked to just will not watch movies.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a thing where it's I don't think that you need to know every facet of every art to be into art or make it. I'm a musician. I make music, and I feel and I like music, but I'm definitely not as much of a music nerd as I feel some people are.
I've had to deal with those
as much as I should be. So there's those levels. But anyway, for those of you just tuned, if this is your first episode, but you probably turn it off at this point. But if this is your first episode, this is a show where we kind of talk about genre film, mainly focusing on horror, sci-fi, cult classics, cult cinema. Is kind of the focus, lesser known. Usually, try to aim for lesser known. Next episode, we're gonna have some really weird movies. But today. We're talking about Battle Royale and Battle Royale II Requiem. Battle Royale is a the year 2000 Japanese action film directed by Kinji Fukasaku. I should have practiced that before. Screenplay by Kenta Fukasaku. I don't know if they're related. Based on the 1999 novel of the same name. That novel also was turned into a manga written by the same author. So,
makes sense.
I really want to check out the manga. Check it out because it's one of my favorite movies. We watched this and Battle Royale 2 Requiem. So I grew up watching the first movie throughout high school. It was mainly because I remember I saw it in an interview. Quentin Tarantino said that it was his favorite movie. And at that time, for film bro status, I'm if Quentin Tarantino says it.
Oh, absolutely. You have to.
It's the word of God, But, I mean, this is one of those movies that, for me, has, held up as, one I can always come back to. I always love showing people this movie because, it's definitely this movie is a great, group watch movie.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
For sure. It's a really fun one. And then 2, I had not seen until you and I watched it. It's, it comes in, the little, the Blu-ray box set of, whatever edition I have. 2 is a special feature. That's how much they kind of don't care about it. It's not really advertised on the box. But tell me, Phil, what you had known about this movie / these movies beforehand. Maybe some of your history of Japanese cinema, Asian cinema in general. Hit me with it.
We'll admit when it comes to Japanese, Asian cinema, so a lot of stuff like that. But going into it, I had always been the guy that, growing up, read The Hunger Games, loved it, adored it, was the target audience age for it when it was really popping off. So I'd always heard about the film, but it was always through that lens of The Hunger Games is a copy or it was inspired by this sort of deal. So I had always been curious into it, especially with how big Battle Royale games have gotten, even using the name.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Oh, you're good. But yeah, it was basically just through the lens of Hunger Games and Battle Royale games, and I'm okay, maybe I should watch the original and actually see it, and then just never getting around to it. and then eventually getting to watch it here. So yeah, it's a lot of my experience had been through the lens of Hunger Games and video games about battle royales.
Yeah, you brought up Hunger Games a lot while we were watching, and it's impossible not to make that comparison. And then speaking of, I feel like there's a lot of, anytime you do like a battle royale thing in media, it's kind of hard to avoid specific things in this movie. Like I had showed you, there's that comic that I want to reread called Avengers Arena, which is basically they take a bunch of young superheroes and throw them into a battle royale situation, and the cover of the first issue is like literally an homage to this movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, it's you can, its tentacles are, it's a very influential movie. But no, like, are you a fan of like any other kind of like Japanese cinema, Asian cinema, anywhere in there? No,
Haven't really seen it. I have the list that you've been telling me to watch, the Kurosawa.
yeah, the Kurosawa.
Yeah,
like,
I need to watch those, but I haven't
Yeah.
delved much into it. Again, most of it's been the anime and some stuff I had to watch back in class, but most of that was I think South Korean, and I don't remember most of it because it was just a week where it was like foreign cinema.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've really been trying to like get back into some of the stuff that I guess I didn't understand before, and now it's like I feel like, especially as I've been watching like all these samurai films, like older Japanese films, and kind of understanding the how do I put it, getting a better grasp on the culture, I guess, because like something that has always been a big barrier for me with, like I mentioned this on the show, with getting into like anime, for example. Like I have so many friends who are like hella into anime, and they recommend anime to me all the time, and I always have a tough time with it. I remember in high school I tried to watch Akira, and I'm like, oh, the motorcycles are cool, but I don't get what the fuck else is going on.
Yeah, Akira's a weird one,
a tough one. I have the Blu-ray of it. I got secondhand that I really wanna try to do an Akira episode, because now I feel like I've got enough of the cultural background where I can really appreciate enough of it more. I also only watched the dub in high school, which is a fucking sin in anime world. But cool. So yeah, basically, got my train of thoughts gone. So yeah, basically, before we're gonna break down the plot a little bit of this movie. But before we get into that, did you like it? Tell me like what your thoughts on the movie were.
Love the first one. It was very much like, I can obviously see it's like a group party kind of watch. I would argue it doesn't really delve that deep into any memes or anything like that, or it could when it comes to like a Japanese audience. But you can, like you said, you see its tentacles in other media. But just in general, I thought it was a really fun watch, even if it is kids killing each other.
Yeah.
It is fun just to watch kind of and we'll get more into it, in especially comparison to a second film. But overall, yeah, just super fun watch. Cinematography, stuff like that. Again, I don't know how much we'll get into later, but
as much as you want to.
Oh, I think it was a really pretty film for what it wanted to be. I think the set was cool. Just like every aspect of the film you can appreciate, especially on a smaller budget. Like it was just a super fun, enjoyable watch. And then if you delve deeper into it, there's so much that you can appreciate from it. Again, can't recommend it enough.
Yeah, no, the first one was really cool. Second one definitely disappointing, but we'll get to that when we get to that. We probably won't delve into the second one as hard. But basically, yeah, so this movie opens up with basically you get like a little text explaining what the Battle Royale Act is. Saying that, like, every year they choose a random class to fight to the death. In the opening, you see this little girl who's like the winner of whatever the previous battle royale was, and she's covered in blood, and she's like holding a teddy bear, and she's just got this like evil fucking smile. And right away, it sets the tone really well for the movie to come. And then we get basically some introductions to some of our central characters, to the teacher. The main teacher is like the antagonist of the movie. You see him, he gets stabbed, like slashed by one of his students. And you also see him having this like really weird relationship with one of his female students, and it's weird. But yeah, them. And then we get introduced to just like some of the base characters. I think at this point you see some of the basketball game where like this movie, by the way, is kind of told in a bit of a non-linear fashion.
Yeah.
In that like all the events going forward, like on the island, you see from beginning to end, but they basically flash back to kind of just give you some context on certain character like relationships and like motivations. And overall, rewatching this movie, it's actually something that I really appreciate about it is that it is very well edited.
Yeah, no, editing is really clear and concise. I wonder though, because we did watch the special edition, how much was added. I wouldn't know.
That's true.
So I don't know how many of those cutaways or flashbacks were extra.
I think, if I remember correctly, most of what was added was like a lot of kind of the extended teachers flashbacks, like with his young student by the waterfall or whatever. Like a lot of those scenes were added, and then just some of the epilogues in general that we got were also
The Lord of the Rings endings, where it's just like, all right, here we go, Requiem 1, 2, 3.
If I remember correctly, specifically, there was one scene in particular that I feel like I remember wasn't in the theatrical cut. Was the flashback with Shuya, the main kid, and him and his dad like at dinner or whatever.
Yeah,
like, and he's supposed to be 12 years old. It's the same actor, but he's just like hunched down below the
yeah. No,
the
it just it looked goofy. That didn't seem like it fit all that well, or it wasn't really needed. I guess just to give us more context on the dad's suicide at the beginning of the film, but even then, it's like I guess we really don't need it. They already explained it in the opening like scrawl kind of deal.
No, before we get to the bus, like how do you feel about just the way this movie opened? Like it piqued your interest, like it.
So you always have that thing where it's like you want to show an audience, you don't want to tell them, but for the premise of this movie, and I don't know how it was advertised back in the day, but whenever you talk about the movie, you know it's like a bunch of kids killing each other, and that is kind of like what draws you in, because it is a weird concept to think about, especially back then. I think the opening is, it's hard to say perfect for the film, but I do think it does what it needs to do, because it tells you where the world's at, why this is happening, and then gives you the little creepy girl opening, which admittedly, thinking about it now, it sets it up as a more, it shows you it's evil. But then we watch the second film, or the rest of the film, and we, not to get too much into it, but it's like there's only really one character that is objectively, you could say, evil.
There's one like super evil, and then I think it's just to show like it brings like
the worst out in people,
bringing the animal out in people, because like a lot of these, I'd say there are technically two characters. We can't get into it specifically, but like there's the girl that I forget her name, but she has the taser at first, and she like sleeps with the dudes and then kills them, and then the T-1000 man, the guy who has literally no fucking lines, in the movie.
At all.
Those two are the ones who are objectively evil, but everyone else, like, it just shows that like maybe man is the true monster.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying as far as like that opening with a little girl makes you feel like, oh, are like a lot of these kids gonna be sinister?
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess there weren't as many. A lot of them are just scared and shit.
Yeah, but it does very well get a point across that like this is a pre-established thing, and everybody knows about it. It's like a thing that happens yearly, but then they have the news coverage and all of that. So it's like, okay, we know this is coming. We know what it is at its core, and that's in like 3 minutes. It gets the set like concept across to us, so that we can move past it.
It's real efficient storytelling. And then even then, like the fact that like we learn a lot about the world just from the newscasters, like all asking questions to the girl too, is like a quick way to get it go. This is a weird comparison to draw, but have you seen Independence Day?
Yeah.
So I love the scene, David's introduction scene, where like he's playing chess in the park with his dad, and his dad is like, "Why are you still wearing your wedding ring? It's been years. Move on." Like, what, you go to MIT to become a cable repairman? Like, but you learn about David and the relationship with his ex-wife, and like kind of his career goals, and like where he's kind of stagnant. Like, you learn so much about this character from just like 5 lines of dialogue.
Yeah.
And people talk about like show don't tell, but like I feel like it's a thing where it's like, if you can tell, but tell in a way that feels like natural within the world, then it doesn't feel cheap. Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's really, really easy to like spot bad exposition It does not feel like it in this movie. It feels like it would be, because you would get that news reports and all of that from that event ending, so we get it naturally. Like, that's a great comparison. Yeah, it doesn't jar the audience in a way. You already are jarred because you know what you're watching when you get into it.
Exactly.
But
it's not like an M. Night Shyamalan. I only say this because I watched last episode the other day. We watched Trap. M. Night Shyamalan's on there. M. Night Shyamalan, all of his characters just say what the thing is. Like, oh yeah, the aliens in there in the plot. I think they're afraid of water. Bye. Yeah, no, cool. Yeah. So the next scene is all the kids are on the bus. They get drugged and knocked out. And they wake up in like a destroyed classroom. There are a bunch of soldiers around. They're freaking out. And their teacher comes out, and like their former teacher, like from the year before, comes out and basically tells them like, "Yep, you guys have been selected for Battle Royale because you're all pieces of shit. you made us do it to you, you know." Yeah, we get this whole introduction scene where we could talk about the specific bits in it, but there's a lot in this scene where we kind of establish like what the rules of the game are. Did you have a favorite moment within this sequence?
The opening scene, I did really like the little gag where they wheel out the TV and it's like this silly introduction.
It's like it's like when the teacher brings out Bill Nye, and it's like,
it's like, we're getting an easy day at school, and it's like, we're gonna have to kill each other. But really like that. I think obviously we'll get into the set design and all of that. I really like the classroom. I love the whole island, but really like the classroom. I do like the way that the teacher is very blunt about it.
Yeah.
It does lead up to some questions about, like, because it's randomly selected.
Yeah.
But it seems like he wanted it to be them, which kind of leaves it open, like, can you suggest classes and stuff like that?
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm pretty sure that, like, teachers can put in bids for, like, I want my class to be the ones that...
Which is just, like, even more getting of a villain. Because you could argue that, like, the villain or the bad guy in the movie is, like, the idea of the Battle Royale in general. The government doing it.
Grown-ups.
But you do need, like, a more clear antagonist for the film, which very much is the teacher. And I do like his performance. I don't think it's over the top. Like, obviously it is, like, not to say silly concept for the Battle Royale, but it is so out there that you have to have a little bit of, like, an exaggerated performance. But it very does much get the point across. He's like, I'm just so done and tired of you kids. Like, you're brats.
Yeah, no, he really is out to just, like, scare them. Like the scene where he tells them all, like, sit down, be quiet, and one girl coughs or something, or like is like telling her friend, like, I'm so scared, and he's like, quiet, and he fucking throws a knife at her head.
Yeah,
you know, just so fucking good. Yeah, like constantly in this scene, like the kids, something freaks them out and they try to escape, and the soldiers have to, you know, back them up. It's just like a really tense scene, and it's almost kind of scary in a way that, like, the soldiers, the teacher, and this fucking video with this how do I say this non-offensively? With the woman in the video who's like she's treating it like it's like some kind of like kids educational video.
It's like a Japanese game show.
Exactly. Like, you'll be on the island.
Like, you're gonna have fun on the island. It's so awesome.
You each get a weapon, water, and for the girl, you know, and for the
girls,
it's kind of just like. The thing that's funny about it, the thing that's funny and kind of scary about it, is this contrast between, like, they're treating this as if it's just some kind of, like, fun, lighthearted, like, school activity, like it's an after-school program, the Battle Royale after-school program, but all these kids are just freaking out because, like, man, this is so fucked.
Yeah, you know? And you could like. The video itself really adds to that horror because it's like, they're treating it like this lighthearted thing, and then you have a bunch of faceless soldiers and a teacher who just doesn't care. So the kids are even in a shittier position where it's like they're scared, they're obviously horrified of what's being implied that they're going to have to do, and nobody is there to help them. It's just them going to have to be killing each other.
Yeah. I forgot to mention to the audience, which, by the way, if you're listening to this, we've been talking spoilers. Hopefully you've seen the movie at this point, but in case you're just listening because you like hearing our voices and haven't seen this movie, the structure of the Battle Royale in this movie is different than something like Hunger Games. Basically, all the kids, they all have these silver explosive collars around their neck, and they have 72 hours for them to all kill each other. And if there is more than one person left, all of the remaining callers will explode. So it is like, that's something that I think is good too. That element of it, like automatically makes it more intense because, you know, there's a time crunch.
Yeah, you have to kill.
Exactly. It's not like the Hunger Games where like you can pretty much just like kind of wait it out the whole time. Like you have to kind of be involved and active in order to, you know, to win, to survive.
But the one aspect that I really did like that the film did was the regular intervals of just straight up announcing to everybody, hey, if you're in these grids, because the whole island's divided up into grids, if you're in these grids at these times, you will die. The necklaces will explode. And
straight up PUBG and Fortnite were like, we're taking that.
Yeah, and it is a great way to explain why they're even seeing each other. Even in a throwaway line, like the exposition, it's like, well, why wouldn't you just hide? It's like, well, because they're going to force you basically to a center point so that they can keep everybody fighting and encourage it, which is just a great way in one little aspect of it to explain why they're actually all fighting in general. And sure, there's some luck later on in the film when I think about it now, like the nerds, like how come they never had it in their quadrant? But no, it was an aspect that I really liked. And the fact that it wasn't like a video game and it seemed more so random, obviously, if we were to rewatch it and grid out the island for ourselves. But no, I thought it was a great, I really liked that.
Yeah, it's a great setup. The next thing that happens is all the kids basically get their, that's another aspect of it, the gamified aspect. All the kids get their bags and weapons, where they just get like thrown a duffel bag. And something that I think is really cool about this, they don't show you every kid, but they show you a lot of them.
Yeah.
Running out. And the way that they take their bag, the way that they interact with their bag tells you a lot about how the characters are going to play this game. You know, like some of them, like a lot of the nerdy kids, like when they try to get their bag, they like drop it and trip and shit. And then like, you know, there are some characters who like refuse and like, no, fuck you. And they throw the bag back. And then the John Connor kid, what the fuck is that character's name?
Basse, because we're going to talk about him.
Shogo.
Shogo?
Kawada is what they call him in the movie.
Kawada.
Kawada. He who is basically two of these kids volunteered for it, their careers, like you said.
Their careers.
And are kind of like anti-hero kid who looks fucking 30.
Way too old.
Just the most refined jawline of any fucking 13-year-old or whatever how old they're supposed to be. He just bolts, like sprints, grabs his bag and runs. And then the T-1000 evil kid like just kind of like looks like he's gonna fall down like with the bag. He's just so nonchalant. Like this sequence is really cool, and I do like how many of the kids we actually see. In the same time too, like they always you had mentioned earlier the whole aspect of them announcing the grids. I also like how they remind you a lot how many kids are left.
Yeah.
And like who died. Which is pretty good. It's just a good way for us as an audience to like, the movie helps us keep track of all the characters because there's a lot of fucking characters. So and then we kind of get the first night, the first night we just get like a round of like some kids. You said that first kid with the crossbow should have just
spawn camp as soon as they're out the door. There's no rules against it.
Exactly. The crossbow kid shoots somebody, he gets killed, someone takes the crossbow. That's another thing too, is an interesting aspect. Even though certain kids only get certain weapons, there's still this element of like, okay, well, I got to be able to get this weapon from that kid, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing we haven't talked about yet was the random weapons.
Yeah.
That were probably, it made it super gamified.
Some of them are bullshit.
But that's why I liked it so much, because it was like somebody got a fan. The main protagonist gets a pot lid.
Yeah. Which
he does use as a shield, which was cool to see. But that was probably one of my favorite aspects of like how they set up the games. Is it's this randomized like, this motherfucker got a gun, but I got a pot lid. Like, how?
Some kid has like an Uzi or a shotgun. One kid gets grenades.
Yeah, they get multiple grenades. It's like, okay, that's a little overpowered.
Although the best item in the game is one of the nerds has the tracking device.
OP.
That can track you. Yeah, absolutely. If you have that and like, if there's like a sniper rifle or something in the game, you win.
Whoever, yeah, again, the kid with the crossbow should have. If I open my bag and I see a gun, again, right outside the door, you step outside that door,
Yeah.
immediately.
And then there's some weapons that you wouldn't, that I think are kind of trickier. Like one girl gets poisoned.
Yeah.
Interesting as well. And that's one actually in the newest. Have you seen the newest Hunger Games?
The song
Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes.
I have not.
Yeah, well, I kind of spoiled it there, but poison comes into play. Yeah, no, just like the whole randomized weapon thing. I remember I watched this movie with my buddy Joseph, and he's like way into video games, like he's a huge gamer, and it's like that would be such a hard thing to put into an actual game because everyone would complain like, what the fuck, how could someone have an Uzi and someone have a pot lid, you know?
You'd have to like pop off, but I mean it gets into it in the film is that you have to do it where you have to gain someone's trust and then poison them. It's like a perfect like, oh, we're the last two alive, like maybe we can beat this, but let me cook you a meal real quick, and it's a little extra seasoning.
Exactly, that deal. Some of the kids just kill themselves, which, you know, in that situation, valid. And then that first night, the T-1000 kid, this is what what's his character? They don't say his character's name that much.
Well, he certainly doesn't say his name.
Kiriyama.
Kiriyama
is the, I just call him the T-1000 whenever.
T-1000 works for me.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? Yeah, no, he gets the fan, and he's kind of cornered by like 4 kids who all have guns, and a katana, and he just like,
and nunchucks.
And he just like total team wipes like all of them, gets the Uzi, kills them all, and then he leaves the nunchucks, which I thought was funny because he's like, what the fuck are you?
Yeah, I have a gun. I have multiple guns. Why, and grenades.
Yeah.
Why would I ever use? I mean, it could have helped in the end, maybe, which would have been cool. But
true. Once again, yeah, this character never speaks. The closest thing he has to a line is actually later is like a cough, like he coughs into the megaphone, you know, which we'll get to that shit because that shit's fucked up. We'll get to it pretty soon. The next day happens. We cut to the next morning, and basically the main kind of team is Nanahara is our main kid, who I feel like I kind of like him as like a vehicle in this movie. He's somewhat of an audience character.
Yeah.
In terms of like he's kind of the one where you get a sense that like he's the kid that like everyone is friends with in the class. Like he's one of those kids that like he's not really a nerd. He's not with the jocks. He's not like super popular, but he kind of is just friendly with everyone.
Yeah.
And he kind of just gets dragged around this whole movie, really. And then he has his I don't want to say girlfriend, like his character, like the female protagonist, I guess, Nakagawa, who I guess has less of a character really to do in this movie. This movie really, it's a lot of the side characters and a lot of the short beats that like really stand out. But no, they get saved by John Connor kid, by a kid with a hatchet, who just starts shouting math problems at them, which I thought was really funny. And then getting to it, there are these girls who I guess one of them has a megaphone as a weapon.
Yeah. And
they call for a ceasefire, basically like, come on guys, let's get together and talk about this. And the John Connor kid's like, oh, this fucking these girls are dumb. They get shot by the T-1000, and then he picks up the megaphone and he literally just crushes her ribs and holds the megaphone up to her mouth so that people can hear her like painful cries.
And it does so well for showing how evil he is as a character. It's like, okay, this dude is the main antagonist of the like players.
He's just a fucker. Yeah. And this is a good place to ask you, so what do you think about the kind of action in this movie in general? Like, it is labeled as a pure action movie on Wikipedia. Like some of the fight scenes, some of the shootouts, like what do you think about the action in general?
Well, we talked about the editing earlier. I think the action itself is really good because it's messy. The people when the kids shoot the guns, they're not shooting it correctly. They're not like instantly like soldiers.
They miss a lot.
It's because they're kids, and it makes it feel like it's kids who don't want to kill each other. They're scared, they're nervous, and all that. And it's done really well in that regard. But then the editing for it isn't super quick cuts or anything like that. They hold on shots when it's like falling down a hill. They're actually filming them fall down the hill, and you can track what's happening. And it just all looks really good and doesn't make it feel overdone in a way. I appreciate it for that. I think the action was really well done in the movie.
Yeah. I feel like in general that's a thing with like this is me being very broad with like all obviously so many countries within Asia, but like I feel like in a lot of like action-oriented Asian cinema, there is, and I think it might come from the whole element of like a lot of countries in that region have their own version of martial arts films and stuff too, where it's like, and this is something I've said earlier because we talked about John Woo, some of John Woo's Hong Kong films, like Hard Boiled and stuff, and like some like martial arts films. I feel like in American like a lot of like Western action philosophy is we want to create the most spectacle as possible. Like we want like explosions and like just large scale like environments kind of being destroyed is kind of the emphasis. Whereas I feel like in a lot of Asian action films and like a lot that focus on that kind of thing, the emphasis is more on we want to see what the limits of the human body, like what can we do, humans do, like our human, what are the we want to see human bodies overcome obstacles and see what the limits of that are, and that's kind of the focus of it. And I feel like this movie has a bit of that same philosophy in a lot of these, you know, kind of fight scenes. Like it's always focused on the characters. There isn't really a thing where like, I don't know, the kids are throwing each other through walls or something. You know?
Yeah, it does it really well in just showing the people going at each other.
Yeah,
and it shows through in the cinematography, and I love that from it.
Yeah, there is one scene though that I feel like does a really good job at utilizing the environment, which we'll get to later. But it's the shootout with all the girls in the kitchen in the lighthouse.
Oh yeah,
I fucking love that scene.
It's really cool.
Yeah, but we'll get to it. Yeah. So the next thing that happens, we have to go into the Wikipedia. Yeah. So the next thing that happens, a lot of the characters kind of get into hiding. Nanahara and Kawada and Nakagawa all hide in this like little house land. Which, by the way, there's all these like little abandoned buildings just everywhere. It makes me wonder what was this island, you know? And we start to kind of spin off to like some of the side characters. We get introduced to the nerds, like I said, as far as like there's this we kind of get our little separate stories. There's this character who these nerdy characters who are trying to get all these computer parts together, and they get access to this terminal, and there's this one kid who's just like the coolest kid.
Yeah, the pure hacker, early 2000s, late 90s stereotype.
He's got his fucking DOS, like, floppy disk ass computer, and he's hacking into the system, and he's trying to figure out how to like disable the callers and shit. And he basically tells his nerdy cohorts to get him stuff to build bombs, and they're gonna like go after the main kind of unit. And yeah, no, that's my favorite squad in the movie for sure. I almost kind of wish there was more of them in the movie because I feel like they get the least emphasis.
Yeah, and it's like a really cool plan they have because he's a cool hacker dude who reads manga. Because I swear that was a slam dunk reference on like his computer monitor. But he also has an uncle who is a freedom fighter who keeps fighting in wars, and so he knows how. He has from his uncle what is it? Not a trigger. Ignition for a bomb, basically, a fuse, while also just knowing how to make a fertilizer bomb.
Yeah.
And then having to tell his friends, like, go get this stuff around the island somehow that still would have all this stuff, and we're gonna make a bomb and blow up like the main base. It's like, okay, this is a story that I want to hear because I love the aspect of people fighting against like the games themselves.
Yeah. It is kind of cool that like we get that plot line, which isn't just kids either trying to win the game or trying to survive the game. That definitely is an element that it doesn't exist in like that first Hunger Games movie necessarily. But yeah, no, that's a cool plot line. Another little plot line we get that we get followed up on is there's this girl named Chikusa who just looking at the thing, who we get a little flashback to her and her boyfriend. Like she's like a runner. She like does track, I think, and we get a little flashback to her and her boyfriend. He's riding his bike alongside her, and they're like, I love you too. And it's, you know, it's kind of cheesy and it's over the top, but it's the style of this movie, you know, for it fits. Like the kind of over the topness in the comic book style does a good job at showing, like, a lot of these characters are kind of stereotypes, but there are so many that you kind of need that that simplicity. But yeah, she has her boyfriend. She misses him. She's running in the woods. And then basically she runs into this boy who he's trying to fuck.
Yeah.
Basically. And at first he's kind of like, come on, we're going to die anyway, kind of deal. Kind of thing you'd expect a teenage boy to do in
Oh, yeah, get it in once.
situation like, once again, Independence Day. There's that scene where I forget her name, but the daughter of Russell, and she's like making out with this boy, and he's like, the world might end tomorrow. You don't want to die a virgin, do you? You know, kind of deal. And she refuses, and then he gets a lug. He threatens her. He's like, well, then I'll force myself on you, and he points his crossbow at her. And they have like a little fight scene, and then she stabs him in the dick.
Which is just a horrible way to go, but funny in the sense that it's like, oh, well, you did say you're going to force yourself onto her.
You're going to try to sexually assault her, so get stabbed in the dick, you know? We support stabbing rapists in the dick on this podcast.
Absolutely.
I'm going to put, that's going to be the caption for this.
Oh, yeah, no, that'll be the clipped part.
Exactly. Yeah, but what was I going to say? Yeah, no, so once again, that's another example of a fight scene that's pretty scrappy, because it's like literally they just kind of roll around the ground. She's got a knife trying to get him. He's trying to run away. And you feel the desperation. It's like, yeah, these just two kids who are just fighting each other in the woods. Yeah, and then just looking at that, throughout this whole movie, we kind of get cutbacks to the teacher in the control room making the announcements to the kids. And I think this might have been cut out of the special edition too. Is that we get some backstory with the teacher. He calls like his daughter, and it gets a little bit more emphasized in the second movie, but he calls his daughter, and she's like, don't bother coming back. We never want to see you again. I could smell your bad breath through the phone. And we see that he has a turbulent home life, humanizing the villain a little bit.
Humanizes him, but also kind of like helps add to his whole like, I'm just depressed, I hate my life, and he makes it a little more reasonable why. Yeah, humanizes him. Why he would be just okay with like, fuck these kids.
Yeah. Well, let's see what else. The next big scene, definitely. I think I'm skipping. Chigusa gets to die with her boyfriend, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And by a dam, and it's a cute scene. But now we get to the lighthouse scene, which is pretty cool. But before that, our main characters,
John Connor,
main kid and main girl.
Yeah, because main girl has an infection.
Yeah, she has
a cut.
She's sick, and Kawada is like, well, my dad's a doctor
and a chef.
His dad just does everything, I guess. And he's able to help her. But then they get attacked by the T-1000 in their little house, and they all get separated, and Nanahara gets injured. And she gets saved by these, I think, 5 girls who are held up in the lighthouse on the island. And this is just like such a nicely it could almost kind of be its own short film, because basically what happens is one of the girls saw Nanahara fighting a different kid earlier, and like that he basically ended up killing that kid.
Yeah.
So she thinks that Nanahara is like dangerous, right?
Yeah.
So they have him locked in like a separate room, in like a little guest room. He's healing him back to health, and they're gonna bring him some food, some soup. And one of the other girls cooking the soup, and this girl comes up and puts some poison in the soup, right? And right away after she poisoned it, one of the girls like goes and gets herself a bowl, like, delicious, and starts eating it.
And then immediately just starts upchucking blood, and then the tension just goes crazy.
Exactly. And the thing is, all these girls are kind of like in denial about like the situation that they're in. Like, they're trying to pretend that everything's fine, like, oh, we're just hanging out, we'll get out of this, we'll be good. And then as soon as she dies, like, everything, all the tension just breaks, and it becomes this like big shootout, and they're taking cover behind each other, shooting, and they're being like, oh, fucking you, like, fuck my boyfriend or whatever, and it becomes this like crazy thing. And yeah, no, it's a really well done action scene. And yeah, they destroy this fucking kitchen. What did you think of this scene?
I loved it. I really do appreciate when like fight scenes keep it kind of grounded, because again, it's all kids. They're all like freaking out, emotions are blaring, everybody's just wild, but it's all in a tight little space we're not going crazy with the action. We don't get that Western, make it more dramatic, make them immediate soldiers. It's kids wildly firing guns and going crazy, and it shows through the brutality of it and craziness of it, where it's just kids with guns with emotional problems who just watch one of their friends throw up blood. I really appreciated it for that.
Yeah. They're all trying to figure out who poisoned the food, and they never suspect the really quiet girl in the corner.
Yeah.
You know, because they all just suspect each other. And I'm a big fan of one of them, like, who can trust. It almost reminded me of a little bit of the same energy as something like The Thing, where it's like you can't trust the people around you. Like one of my friends is an imposter kind of deal.
Yeah, it like gets into that whole thing of like, oh, we're all friends, we'll be fine, and then one little thing's gonna happen, and it's like, I hate you. I've hated you forever now.
For so long, I only pretended to be your friend. Yeah. So, yeah. Now we get to the stretch of the movie that for me is probably like the week. Like there's like a bit of a lull before we kind of get to our final conflict, and I feel like a lot of that has to do with the fact that we get a bunch of. It's kind of flashback city around this part where we get more scenes of Nanahara and his dad before his dad kills himself. We get some flashback scenes with like the teacher and main girl having like a weird like little connection like to. I still don't fully understand a lot of it. Some of it might be just like, oh, the teacher feels bad about his relationship with his daughter, so this girl is kind of being his surrogate daughter.
Yeah.
Type of deal. Or does I feel like there's an insinuation of him having some kind of feelings for her.
That's what I was picking up on. At least it seemed like it. Like they go on their little date and all that, which you're saying was probably added in post.
I'm pretty sure it was. I don't remember that sequence because I think the first time I saw this movie was like a friend of mine had like a normal DVD, and we watched that and it was a theatrical, and I'm pretty sure none of that plot was in there.
Yeah, that would make sense. It does feel like a lull in the movie for sure. All the flashbacks, I mean, if I can have a gripe about it, I get why it's there is to make it seem a little bit more sad before we get into like the final few people. But it does kind of like, oh, all these people are dying, all this like, not say action, it's an action movie, but it does slow it down a little bit.
Trying to give us a breather.
Yeah. Which, yeah, I guess that's a good way to do it. Just like, all right, a lot of people have died. You know how many have died. Wait a sec, and then we'll get back into, like, the craziness of it all.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like for me, the teacher having the little call with his daughter where she talks shit to him is enough for me to feel bad. To, like, at least have an element of sympathy for this character. Enough we're like, oh, well, he's not all super evil, you know?
Yeah, like you feel bad for him just enough where you're like, okay, I get that this world kind of sucks just even like outside of the games. I can see why he's depressed and doing that, which it like validates the cutbacks to him throughout and why he's kind of acting more depressed as we go along and just being like, I just don't care anymore. Yeah,
no, actually, no, that's a good point, Drew, because he does become just kind of like more ambivalent about everything towards the end. So yeah, I guess that does. I don't know. I forget if the theatrical cut is on my Blu-ray. I think it is.
Probably.
I'll watch it again and we'll get back to you. But yeah, no. So we kind of amp up to our final confrontation. The only groups left are the T-1000, who has just gotten more and more gear throughout the whole thing. Like he's got body armor, he's bulletproof.
He's got the legendary scar at this point.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And all that's left is the nerds, the main crew, and the T-1000. The nerds have the bombs ready, and they're gonna go to the command center or whatever to blow it up. And the T-1000 shows up and ruins their plans. There's a little bit of a shootout, and the bombs end up going off.
Yeah.
And our main squad kind of rolls up on their little destroyed like warehouse base that they've been working out of, and there's fire everywhere, and it's real big final boss.
Oh yeah, like, no, easily. It's like a video game setup kind of deal.
Revenge of the Sith ass thing. And in the explosion, the T-1000 is blinded. There's like his eyes are white and there's blood coming out of his eyes. And I remember I love it because I love over the top shit. But I definitely have, some friends have watched this and went like, okay, that's a little silly.
See, I could see, like, I understand that being like, oh, it's a little silly, but it's like, okay, what's the core concept of the movie we're watching? Oh, it's a bunch of kids killing each other, and how has the whole movie been progressing of this character who literally will never speak once? It looks awesome. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. It is probably my favorite shot of the movie, of watching a, like, already dilapidated island that's pretty worn down and overgrown, and then it's fire everywhere, all practical, and a really cool shot, low angle, looking up at him as his eyes are white and bleeding.
And there's like fire in front of and behind him.
And you can see the heat from the flames themselves. It is an awesome shot. Even if it's goofy, it just makes him look like even more of a badass, crazy villain. Yeah. And really, it just looks so cool.
I also remember the music being pretty epic in this scene too. I guess we haven't talked at all like about the music. It's a pretty big, bombastic ass score.
Yeah. There's a few scenes where it's a little much, just in like those small little dialogue scenes where it'll be a little too loud, little too much. But for any of like the cool action scenes or the ones where they go over the top, fantastic.
Yeah, it really does sell. It gets your heart pumping for sure. Yeah, no, I get what you're saying though, and then some of the melodramatic numbers can make it feel a little soap opera-y.
Yeah.
But once again, I think that might be. That is also a bit of like a cultural thing. Oh god, because I feel like in other, like kind of Asian cinema I've seen, there's kind of a similar like shift in mood with like how they use the music, especially from this era. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, they have their final confrontation. They kill the T-1000, and then it's just Kawada, Nanahara, and main girl. And Kawada seemingly is ready to shoot him.
Yeah.
Right? It's only us left. This was my plan the whole time. And we don't see him shoot them. We just hear the gunshots over the radio. Oh, because the kids actually, the nerds did manage to hack the system and shut everything down for a minute
before trying to go and take the bombs to the headquarters.
Exactly. So like I think it's like their video feed or whatever isn't up, so like they only hear the gunshots. And they're like, okay, bring them in, like Kawada 1 or whatever. And Kawada comes to the base, and then so Kawada comes to the base, and it's a trap basically. But yeah, so Kawada, I'm just reading the Wikipedia here. Yeah, so Kawada hacked the system months beforehand.
Yeah.
To make it so that the necklaces like won't explode. He hacked it beforehand, and the exploding necklaces will not explode. And it turns out that main guy and main girl are alive. And they have like a little bit of a final situation. Okay, yeah, I'm reading the Wikipedia here. This kind of explains the little plot line with the teacher. They have a little final confrontation with Kitano, the teacher, his name the whole time. And Kitano basically says, like, he fucking, like, hates not being respected by the students, and he says that it reminds him of his own issues with his daughter. And it says right here, the reason why he, like, treats Noriko better, the main girl, is because she's the only one who, like, always respected him. And so he sees her as a daughter, is what it says there. But now he was trying to be a creep.
It was creep. I'm sorry. You do not share, even if it was an added scene. I'm not sharing popsicles with some.
That's true.
Yeah, I'm sorry. If I'm sharing popsicles on a riverbank and like a nice little thing with somebody, I'm trying to smash or date or something like that. I'm not doing that with a student. Now, this does immediately flash back to a teacher who would give us ice cream.
Yeah, but not in a romantic environment or whatever, and not just you and them alone. Maybe.
No, it was.
Oh, okay.
But
we don't gotta get.
No, it wasn't anything like that. I'm just like I was saying it out loud. I was like, "Yo, wait, pause."
Hold up. It don't sound bad.
She's a sweet teacher.
Yeah, but anyway, so they have their final confrontation with Kitano. Kitano gets shot, and there's kind of a funny scene where after he gets shot and he's seemingly dead, he like gets up, like He gets up, he answers the phone, someone pisses him off, he throws the phone, and then he shoots the phone, and then he finally dies.
Yeah, well, he stands up, points the gun, shoots him. It's a water gun.
Yeah.
And then has a real gun and shoots the phone, which gets to the point of like, oh, he really just didn't care. He was just like...
He's just like, fuck it.
Like, yeah, fuck it. Here's squirt you with a water gun real quick. Oh, he's going to squirt the water gun. That's a real gun. Which was a part that did kind of confuse me because I was like, oh, is he going to kill them? Why didn't he? But that actually kind of makes more sense now, just being like, I just don't care anymore. You guys won.
He just kind of lost it. Yeah, that's true. He has sympathy for them. Yeah, it's a little bit unclear. I've never super loved the ending of this movie. As far as it's very much a lost situation where it's not about the destination, it's about the journey.
Yeah.
And the journey here was certainly really cool. So the squad gets off the island. They get on a boat. Fucking Kawada dies from his injuries, although he seemingly seemed fine beforehand.
Yeah.
And in the epilogue, so main girl and Nanahara both make it off the island, and now they're wanted fugitives.
Yeah.
For beating the battle royale system, and that's where we end off with this first movie. And yeah, we pretty much said all of our thoughts on it. Yeah, no, it's a really solid action movie. The characters, although they're one note, I'd say that they're pretty memorable. Like, there's a lot of distinct personalities. It's like, yeah, no, it's the action and violence is crazy. It's a fun movie to watch with friends. Yeah, no, it's a good movie. Battle Royale 2, though.
Yeah.
Requiem, which we also, folks at home, recorded a Patreon commentary track for. So if you have a copy of the movie, get access to a copy, you can listen along to us for the Patreon, $5 a month.
I think you said it was on Tubi or something like that.
Yeah, Battle Royale 2 Requiem is on Tubi, so you'll have to, if you watch it on Tubi, you'll have to pause exactly when in the commentary, but rent it. Anyway, yes, please sign up for the Patreon. But yeah, so Battle Royale 2 Requiem for a Dream is a sequel that came out, I believe, in 2003. I'm trying to get to the page for it. Battle Royale 2 Electric Boogaloo. Battle Royale 2. 1 second. Yeah, so I had not watched this movie till we saw it. And God damn it. Yeah, this movie started off pretty promising. It started off with a very different kind of energy. This movie came out in 2003, yeah. And the plot takes place 3 years afterwards. And one of the things that's interesting about this opening, first off, the title sequence is really cool.
Really well edited. It was really, like, pretty but cool and kind of scary at the same time.
Yeah, like really interestingly stylized. Like, it's like the Battle Royale logo kind of comes together in this red 3-dimensional space, and it reminded me like of a fucking James Bond opening or something. Like, it was really, or the opening to Casino Royale, where it's like all these like just kind of matte colors coming together. It was cool. Yeah, no. So we get a little bit of an update on the survivors from the first film. So Nanahara is now like the leader of like the resistance or whatever against the children
resisting against adults.
Against the adults. Like you said, the Kids Next Door movie.
Yes.
A lot of this very much has the energy of Kids Next Door for sure. I don't want to get super into the overall plot of this movie. I kind of want to mainly just talk about the opening of this and how it differs, and then just like kind of more the overall plot. Yeah, so we get introduced to them, and then we kind of get like a little explanation into our group of students this time around. We don't get them individually. They just kind of say that like these kids are like, they're at the shit school. They're at the school that you go to when there's nowhere else they can send you. You know, like these are like poor, shitty kids type of deal. And they're all like rebellious and rebels. And we get a similar sequence where they're on a bus going somewhere on a trip. They get knocked out. And this time they wake up on the bus and they got the explosive collars on. The collars look a little bit different. Got that upgrade. You know? I really like how the collars look in this movie too. And a lot of the, I will say this, like a lot of the opening aesthetics and the visuals, like this movie has a very different look.
Yes.
Do you want to talk a little bit about like how from this first 10-ish minutes, how it establishes itself as a little bit of a different look. I wonder if it has a different director.
Possibly, but so with the first one, everything seems like the rundown island, the overgrowth, all of that. It feels kind of more natural and just like more based, like, oh, we're on an island, it's overgrown, all of that. Like, it would be like the government sanctioned us to do it on this. This feels, not to say more forced, but kind of more in military-ish. Which gets into like the bigger story of the movie, but it's very much like, oh, when they get escorted off the bus, they're in a cage surrounded by military officers, and it seems a lot more focused, and it very clearly shows that it's the government doing this than it does in the first movie, where we're supposed to like focus on the kids and how they're interacting with it. It very much seems like, oh, it not seems, it is that the government is having a hand in this one, obviously because it's a little bit different than the last one, but because it doesn't hit the same. I'm not the biggest fan of it. Obviously I don't think the movie's all that great compared to the first one, but it feels a lot less human, is the best way I would describe it. It doesn't feel as grounded in a way.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. It doesn't, I think there's a lot of reasons for that. Before I kind of give my thoughts on how this movie introduces itself, a little bit of a sad fact, which makes me feel bad about this movie we're about to shit on.
Oh.
So the second movie was supposed to be fully directed by the director of the original film. Looking for his name, Kinji Fukasaku. But he died after only filming one scene of the film, and his son, who is also a filmmaker director, directed the most of it. Like aside from that one scene, pretty much. Like his son came in and finished the film for him. Which makes me feel sad about shitting on this movie.
I don't want to shit on it now, because now I'm like, oh, that's really sad. I mean, it's cool that like he got to do that. Now I'm kind of curious what scene he directed.
Yeah, me too. I do wonder. I wonder if it'll say in the production. Let's see here. If we going on Wikipedia, folks. If people at home, if you want to do a movie podcast, Wikipedia is a great tool.
Oh yeah, no, having it pulled up is fantastic.
Yeah. Let's see. We never set out to make Harry Potter. He explains he wanted the audience members to. I'm looking at the production page. Let's see. The director said he viewed his task as finishing his deceased father's movie instead of as directing his first creation. Oh, okay. The son credits the film as his father's. Oh, okay. That he was more trying to like make his father's image. Interesting. This doesn't say what scene he filmed, but I'm sure it could be something that we find out. But yeah, no, adds a sad tinge to it. But yeah, talking about some of the differences in how this movie feels. You said that it feels less grounded in that, like, I think the biggest negative with this movie overall is that I don't know any of the characters.
Yeah, it really just never, like, there's no real flashbacks to the characters, but anybody of the main new cast, we never really get like any close feeling to.
Yeah, it's just big hair 1, big hair 2.
Yeah, it's all just crazy hairs.
Yeah, it's all just crazy hair. Yeah, when this movie started up, I was kind of excited because I'm like, I thought that the new cast of characters we had, like, oh, all these kids look pretty interesting. Can't wait to learn about them. And we just kind of don't. A lot of them, all the crazy hairs die like within the first 30 minutes or so.
Yeah.
There's more of it, but I feel like that's the main thing where it's like I'm not connected to any of these new kids. And then the only person who I do know, Nanahara, he's just going through his fucking Apocalypse Now phase where he's just kind of like traumatized, hiding in this castle.
Traumatized, but we did forget one thing to talk about with the movie opening up, is that Nanahara, in the 3 years since then, his resistance decided to commit a terrorist attack.
Yeah.
By blowing up, I forget which city it was, blowing up a bunch of buildings.
Yes.
And the first scene we see in the movie of a city is 2 towers.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Specifically shot falling down.
Yeah, this is 2003, so I mean, here's the thing. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt in the sense that, like, you know, it is Japan, and like, it might not have, culturally speaking, been like everybody who looked at that scene and improved it, but it really could have just not been on the forefront of their minds because no, it was not an American production whatsoever. So yeah, no, it was something we were both like, ooh, whoa. Yeah. But yeah, no, with this opening and the way we introduced, I liked how it felt. I'm not going to use the word grounded, but grittier.
Yes,
like,
I can get that.
It was a lot more like they weren't in a classroom, they were thrown into like this cage, and it was a lot more kind of like military, like get the fuck in there. Like the kids were kind of like, it was a more aggressive feeling kind of thing, like it was going to be kind of like a more hard-hitting kind of feels what it started out feeling like, and all the kids got, instead of wearing their like school uniforms, they're all given camo gear and shit, and what follows is basically like kind of a shittier version of the classroom introduction scene to the first one, beyond just the fact of like it feels like they kind of rush through all the same points, whereas in the first movie I feel like they give you the first movie during that sequence, they not only do they give you a lot of time to learn about what the rules are, but the kids like respond and react to it, and through those reactions we learn these kids are all kind of just like quiet and like listening the whole time.
It's a lot more of the game, if you want to even call it that, is forced onto them. Obviously it's forced in both scenarios, but we never get to see how they're reacting to it. It's just, you have a mission, go from point A to point B, and a bunch of you are gonna die.
And that's another thing too that we mentioned, and we should just talk specifically about it now. This isn't really a battle royale in this movie. It's once I say what it is, the goal is not, so they still have the explosive collars and they have 72 hours to finish their job, but their task is to kill Nanahara, is to kill the leader of the terrorists, of the main character from the first movie, who's held up in this like big facility building at the top of this hill on this island that is just basically generic ruins.
It looks so just basic. I like the fort itself, but the rest of the island was very much just ruins. And then so their goal is they have 72 hours to kill him, or else all their calls are go off. And then another thing that they implemented, which honestly really I think kind of backfired on their part, is that every kid, so there's 42 kids, if one kid dies, the other kid dies. Everybody has a partner.
And if your partner dies, your explosive collar is going to explode. And all these kids are being forced to try to take out Nanahara, and kids are dying so quick.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Which is similar to the first film, but they're dying from gunshots and all their partner dying, rather than, we have a kid committing suicide, we have people being killed by other kids. It loses so much.
There isn't really any variety in what's going on, like even down to the fact that they don't have individualized weapons. Like everyone just gets like a
Starship Troopers gun,
like their future machine gun or whatever, and they're just sent to war. And it's just not that gamified element of it. It's kind of fucked up to say because it's it's a movie about kids killing kids, but that gamified aspect of the first movie is what made it fun, and being like, oh, what would I do if I got that, and you don't get any of that in this movie. There isn't really anything to kind of think about in that regard. And then a bunch of big haired characters die. I don't want to get into specifics, but they eventually make it to the fort, and Nanahara and the squad are there, and they basically are like, hey, we know how to get the collars off, or we can disable the collars and save them. So most of our new kids get the collars off, and then I'm gonna be honest, Phil, a lot of what happens in this section, where we're just kind of rolling around this base all being like, man, adults suck.
It literally just falls by the wayside, and then eventually the adults are like, oh well, it failed, let's just send in the guys we should have sent in first, which are specialized military soldiers.
Exactly. They send in adult specialized soldiers to come kill all the kids, take care of it. And another weird thing is that there are kids of all ages in this fort, little kids, 5-year-old kids,
and a baby,
which, like I said, is there a baby battle royale? Because we know that they do younger the first movie, it's ninth graders. I think it's ninth graders getting this one. But we know from the opening of the first movie, I think they say it's like a fifth or fourth grade girl.
Yeah, like super young.
They have little kids participating in the battle royale. So like, you know, it would have been cool if they directly said that, like, oh yeah, we're all the previous winner. It'd be sick.
Isle of Victors.
The Isle of
like
Victors.
Yeah.
It'd be fucking dope. But like, they never really explain that necessarily. We don't even. Another thing I didn't even think about, and it's fine because I don't think it's important to the first movie. We don't know how long it's been going on.
Yeah.
We don't know which we don't know if this is like Battle Royale 10 or whatever.
Which does suck, but I kind of like that the first film doesn't get into it. It's just like, here's the concept, boom.
Yeah. It doesn't bother me because as far as like, you look at something like Hunger Games, like it's important to Hunger Games because the Hunger Games is itself, the actual competition is only like a small piece of what's going on. Like it's way more about the world beyond and the purpose of the Hunger Games. Whereas like the first movie, at least, a Battle Royale, I really isn't concerned about that. Like it's more like if people were in the situation, what would they do? And like, you know, the fact that the whole movie takes place during the Battle Royale is in that too. Like it'd be, although me personally, I think it would be kind of cool to see a Hunger Games movie that the whole movie takes place during the Hunger Games, during the games themselves.
Yeah, it would definitely like expand upon everything. Would you want to follow one single character, or
Well, here's the thing.
is this where we're gonna pitch your ideal battle royale movie?
This isn't even me pitching. This is just me talking about how they did announce. I think Lionsgate is who owns Hunger Games, if I remember correctly. So the author, I forget her name,
Suzanne Collins.
is writing another prequel book.
Okay.
And it's about the 50th Hunger Games. Which
Haymitch's
Hunger Games. Yeah, they announced it. They're doing a book and a movie of Haymitch's Hunger Games.
I actually might read that book.
Yeah, which I don't know if you know the specifics about how that quarter quell, the whole thing is it's double the amount of tribute. So it's 2 girls, 2 boys from every district. So it's math. How many kids? 48 kids.
Yeah.
I think because
12 districts, 24. Yeah, 48.
Arithmetic. And I feel like that could be a thing. Like, damn, because at this point, I think we know enough about the lore of the Hunger Games, and we know enough about the world where, like, you don't need going into the movie. You don't need to explain what they are. That was something I like about Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes as well. Is like the movie is I really like that movie, by the way.
Yeah, I should give it a watch.
No, I think it was really good. But which we have a podcast episode of. We did do a review of Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Go check that out. What was I gonna say? It assumes that you know what the Hunger Games are, and I feel like Haymitch's Hunger Games movie has the potential to be, I don't know, something dumb like this.
I think if you really, because we as an audience just already know it. It's like in the new Batman movies. It's like we don't need to see the origin story anymore. Or Spider-Man, everybody knows it. Yeah, we can just skip past it. So with Haymitch's, it's like, okay, if he even has a victor or like a coach, what it is? Because the first is it the District 12 girl wins or something in Songbird? I literally have no idea.
Yeah, the District 12 girl wins, but it's how'd I put it? I kind of don't want to spoil it because it is good, but it's more complicated than that. I recommend you watch it. But yeah, no. So sorry, what were we talking about with
the 50th?
The 50th Hunger Games. Yeah, I'm excited for that. I think it'll be cool. I really like Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. But with the reason we got into that is because we were talking about how many battle royales has there been. But yeah, they're on the island and we're just kind of meandering around this fucking fort. And Nanahara's being all like, "Oh, war is hell" and shit, and it's just like all the kids lamenting about like, "Oh man, the adults have fucked us," There might be a little bit of a message in there about like, oh, like adults have ruined, have like kind of ruined the world for us kind of thing. You could see just, I mean, any kind of, not even just like the environment, like, oh, they've like, it definitely could be like just an allegory for, maybe how hyper capitalistic like Japan is, and like I don't know what the exact movement is, but just looking at like America, young people are fed up with like how authoritarian the government acts, and like how we don't see a future in sight because things are too expensive, the world's dying, etc. I definitely feel like there's that sentiment in there in this movie.
I could see it, and then especially if it's a younger guy taking over the director role, or that it can play into that. But it very much seems to lay heavier into the like, we are kids fighting against the system that has already obviously failed. Like, that's the reason they even exist in the first place. And you could argue that it's like, oh, the parents, the adults are doing this because they blame the younger generation. That's why they have the battle royale to weed out weak kids and make them try to be better.
You kids have it too easy. We're gonna make you kill each other.
It's gonna make you tougher if you kill some other people. If you kill 41 other people. Back in my day, I had to kill 50 kids. You just have to kill 42.
But yeah, it goes weird with it. Obviously, then there's the scene where America just airstrikes the island.
Oh yeah,
or the not directly referenced one, but very much obviously is America being like, oh, we can't have any revolutionaries.
Exactly, just being like, yeah, we can't have them overthrow the world, for sure. Yeah, the U.S. bombardment begins. Reading there. But yeah, no. So yeah, there is a big final boring battle. Like you said, amongst the soldiers and the kids, and a lot of the kids get killed. And then, we forgot to mention this. The movie comes back to it at the end, but Nanahara talks at one point about visiting like somewhere where there's real suffering or whatever. Somewhere like I'm reading the Wikipedia. In the movie we were like, oh, it's like some Middle Eastern country, but it's Afghanistan specifically.
Okay.
And how like, yeah, the people there were poor, but they were free and they were happy or whatever. And after the final battle, like the survivors, that's where they go. They just like end up in Afghanistan and they're happy.
Yeah, it's the weirdest.
It feels random.
It doesn't really make sense, and it goes along with the craziness of the second movie, but it comes out of left field, and you're just like, eh.
It's not even that it can be almost anywhere. It's just like specifically Afghanistan feels like a weird thing. Like they don't explain what specifically about it would maybe be like, oh, like one of them has family who lives there or something, would make more sense, or like, I don't know, it does feel very out of left field.
Yeah,
for sure.
It didn't click with me, and it just
yeah. Yeah, no, that's how this movie ends. I was scanning the Wikipedia here. There is an extended cut of this movie. I don't think it's what we watched.
Probably not.
Entitled Battle Royale Requiem Revenge.
See, that sounds like a third film.
Battle Royale Revenge. Yeah, that does sound like a third. Battle Royale Requiem Revenge. That would be a nice little thing. Yeah, additional action, improved effects, slow motion shots, new score in several scenes, and an extended storyline. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I guess an extended version that fills in more background with our characters would help this movie a lot.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, honestly, it's just hard to be invested because we don't really learn anything about these kids.
They seem as if a vehicle just to reintroduce the main characters from the first film.
Yeah.
Like, literally.
Yeah, that's their only purpose. But yeah, no. So yeah, this movie, like you said, yeah, not as good as the first. It's got the film received a 30% on Rotten Tomatoes based on 10 reviews with an average rating of 5.4 out of 10. I wonder what its Letterboxd reviews are. That's what you know what? I don't think
You didn't write your review?
Oh, I know. Yeah, I did. Look,
okay,
wow.
Good.
I gave it 2 stars. I thought I didn't, but I wonder what it's. I'm looking at Letterboxd right now, folks. By the way, I'm just LC Hines on Letterboxd. LC space Hines, HNES. Go follow me. Yeah, so this movie is a 2.3, which is higher than I expected on Letterboxd. So yeah, at this point, segment on the show that we do, where we choose our favorite a prop that we want to take from the movie we're talking about.
I like this.
Like if you could take a prop from the movie, put it on your shelf, have it in your house, what would you have? I'm gonna say you can do one. Like you don't have to do one from each. Just choose one from the first movie and or the second movie. What prop would you want? I'm gonna go pretty basic with mine.
Second one, it might be a little bit basic. Is the necklace, the bomb necklace, because I think that's really cool. From the first movie's a little tougher. How about you say yours, and I'll try to think about mine for the first movie.
I was gonna say the bomb necklace from Battle Royale 2.
Oh, okay. Well,
but no, but it's
or
okay.
the gun. I could take the futuristic looking gun.
The Starship Troopers. I know it's okay. I kind of want maybe the T-1000's katana. That'd be pretty sick.
Oh, that'd be cool
to have. Katano's jumpsuit is pretty fucking pimp in the first movie. I'm trying to think. I don't know. Maybe the big CRT TV he rolls in because I want a bigger CRT now.
That'd be cool with the VHS in it.
With the VHS,
just rolling in the background of your apartment.
Exactly, fucking schoolhouse rolling the TV in. But no, I'm gonna go with Let's see, what would be cool? I'm trying to think of something that is very specific to this movie.
GPS tracker.
The GPS tracker. Maybe like one of the maps of the island.
I was thinking about
cool.
that as we were watching the movie because you were saying somebody had the poster.
Yeah.
From that, or the giant like art piece that he draws. Mm-hmm. I would really like one of like the poster.
Yeah, no, the drawing that I think it was Katano's daughter drew or someone of like it was depicting. It was depicting the Battle Royale. Yeah, that painting or drawing or whatever it is.
Okay, yeah, no, that's the peak one from the second movie. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
The necklace, like maybe from the first one because it's iconic. That almost feels like it's a prop from the first movie because it just shows the first movie.
That's true.
That would be a really cool one. From the first movie though, out of left field pick, Nerd's laptop, and I want it showing the little dude dribbling the basketball like as he's hacking, and I want this stereotypical hacker screen just like blinking with the binary or whatever
That'd be
it is.
cool, just like the green matrix ass.
Yeah.
Coloring and font, that would be sick. You just reminded me, we didn't even talk about with Battle Royale 2. We didn't talk about how Katano's daughter is in. In too, because it doesn't fucking. She volunteers for the games or whatever, and she wants to kill Nanahara, or like she wants to like find out why he killed
or figure out why it was the girl. Why the girl was so holy in the picture.
And then eventually she's just like, I don't care anymore.
Yeah, no, they just totally skip past it.
They drop that plot line.
Yeah, it's like, okay, guys, that's weird. It seems like that's how you open the movie and get the flashback where you bring back the original actor for the teacher. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, Yeah. It just, the second one, that's the most introduction we get to a character, and it just drops off for Crazy Eyes. Mm-hmm. And Mr. Tense's jaw in every scene that he's acting in. And it's like, bro.
He was just mewing the whole time.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. Good props. This has been our review of Battle Royale 1 and 2. Thank you for coming on the show, Phil.
Oh, no problem. It was fun.
Yeah, it's fun. It's been a blast. Definitely. I'm going to watch the theatrical version of the first movie, and I'm going to try to find the extended cut of the second one, because maybe it'll help fix some more problems. Explain something. So this has been Midnight Movie Gang. Thank you so much, folks, for listening. My order has been delivered. You can follow us on Instagram at Midnight Movie Gang. On YouTube, we're at Midnight Movie Gang Podcast. Please check that out. If you've been listening for a bit, if you're someone who's been following, please, if you can, we'd love your support. If you go to the Patreon, sign up for Patreon, you get access to new episodes 2 days early. So we drop new episodes on Wednesdays, but you get them on Monday if you're on the Patreon.
Monday podcasts are nice.
Exactly. You get to be fucking ahead of the curve, start of your week, real nice. $5 a month, get access to those monthly commentary tracks, and definitely more we want to put on there. I mean, but it's just the fact of like, I'm a human being and things cost money.
Yeah.
So yeah. Thank you so much for listening, and have a nice night. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
So, here we go. With child expectations and the complexes which the police are searching for James Thomas, believed to be the lover of Miss Williams, and her partner in the horrible murder of Walter. Where's everybody? They're not here. They've all gone. Oh, please tell me where they've gone. Please tell me. Sorry, I don't know. How long is it? How could I got in here? 3 tickets to Albany on 6 o'clock train tonight. What do you think? Special agent. Special agent.